The Board of Trustees of the Lamar Consolidated Independent School District is called to order at 6:30 PM. This is a regular monthly board meeting being held on October 15th, 2024. We have a quorum with 7 members present. Please join me in a moment of silence to observe as you feel appropriate. Thank you. Please join me in a please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance and the pledge to the Texas flag led by 6th grader John Yates from Wertheimer Middle School.
I didn't. Oh, I thought I was going to be told when to go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Yes. Dr. Nivens, are there any recognitions or awards?
No, sir, there are not.
All right, Dr. Nivens, are there any introductions?
Yes, sir, we do have, not here tonight? Okay, so no, we don't. We have some officers, but they're not here tonight.
All right. We will now have board member reports and shout outs. Trustees, please keep your comments to 1 to 2 minutes. Yes, ma'am.
I'll go first. Not a whole lot. We did, several of us go to San Antonio to TexCon, the convention, and it was very exciting. It's very exciting to see a lot of people and get a lot of information that we need to bring back to our district. And of course, shout out to Casey Lazar for her wonderful workshop. We were glad that we woke up early enough to see you. And my other shout out is to our marching bands. After going to several football games and watching their halftime show, you can tell the hard work that these young people do during the summer and the time that they put into their shows with the band directors and parents has gotten them ready for the contest season that they're in right now, and which shows with their accolades they're receiving at these events. So just a shout out to all the marching bands for all our high school. Thank you, and we see you. And that's it.
For me, I would like to give a shout out to our family support specialist that falls under our student services department. A lot of our family support specialists, they walk with our students and our families through some of the hardest times in the students' lives. So when the crisis happens, when in this past month, we had a situation where it was just a pretty, like Dr. Nivens says, it's heart work. And so there was a pretty heavy situation that our family support specialist walked through a family with. And so I know with a lot that they're doing, it's very draining emotionally. So they're stepping in gaps and filling needs that normally we would wish upon no one. So that's that. We will now have board committee reports. Board members, are there any reports? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, the policy committee met, and after coming back from our conference, we had some questions regarding the responsible use of AI. So we kind of discussed that and just kind of exploring how we can go about getting policy regarding that, using it, teaching it, students using it, as well as teachers. And then also we have cell phone committees that have been formed, and we will be meeting in the near future so that we can partner with our secondary principals, kind of collaborate with them.
All right, thank you. Ms. Bucks, anyone else?
Is John going about this?
Oh, the Strategic Planning Committee. We're doing a new strategic plan for the district, a 5-year plan. We've spent months finding a company and putting the committee together, and the committee met for the first time since we met last. And it was here in this room, was a lot of parents and community members. We had a full room. And my hope is that they will keep coming back every month that we have a meeting, because it's easy to get excited and go to the first couple and then drop off towards the end. But I was appreciative that they all took the time to come.
The first Student Health Advisory Council meeting was this morning. I think we all know what SHAC is, but for the public, it is just a group of individuals who meet 4 times a year, and they really have 2 charges. They provide just a structure to make sure that our instruction is age appropriate when it comes to health education programs, and they also ensure that our values as a community are represented in our human growth and development curriculum. This morning was mostly just a recap since it was the first meeting, but one thing I really wanted to tell the community, and we've told the community before, but is about the Cody Stevens Project. It is something really awesome that we offer to our athletes now, ages 12 through 24. Cody Stevens was a high school football player who died of sudden cardiac arrest on the field, and his loved ones essentially created a foundation for Texas athletes. And I believe all of our UIL athletes can get an ECG, an echocardiogram, pre-season to ensure that they don't have any undetected heart conditions. It's at a very low cost for the kids in our district, so I just want everyone to take advantage of it. I think it's $20, and then we're working on grants to provide our underprivileged kids with the free ECGs. So I'm not quite sure if they happen at the beginning of the year or the beginning of this season for the certain athlete, but I just want everyone to be aware of that because it's something super awesome to take advantage of. That's it.
Anyone else? All right. Ms. Johnson, are there any public comments? Oh, I'm sorry. Dr. Nivens, do you have a superintendent report?
Actually, I do, sir. I give a shout out, as we've been traveling campuses, we've been looking at our Innovative School Day, and I just want to acknowledge all the teachers and support staff who are taking part in that. I've told everybody I know that is a huge ask, and I know that is a lot of work that we're doing on campuses. The feedback I've received has been phenomenal from our instructional staff, and they really appreciate the additional time. Our other non-instructional staff, they're having a good time also. And I remember hearing a lesson when some individuals, we saw it on the video, where individuals were talking to our young students about credit card interest rates, which is not a conversation I even had until I got my first credit card, and I got a shock when I got the bill. So it's good that we're allowing students to have those conversations early, so when they get out into the real world, they can know what to expect. But I just want to give a shout out to the staff for engaging in that, because I know that's a huge ask. But it's going well. Thank you, sir.
All right. Now, Ms. Johnson, are there any public comments?
It is the desire of the Lamar CISD Board of Trustees to appropriately and effectively fulfill its governance role in accordance to best practices for quality organizations and to the applicable provisions of the Texas Education Code. Trustees also desire to afford an opportunity for input from the public. Members of the community who wish to address the board must have completed a public participation public comment card and submitted it before the presiding officer called the meeting to order. Public participation allows individuals to address the board regarding posted agenda items. Public comment allows individuals to address the board regarding non-agenda items. Trustees may not respond to public comments as they are prohibited by law from discussing or deciding any subject that is not on the board's publicly noticed agenda. All patrons desiring to speak and who have completed the public comment form will be heard during the public comment portion of the meeting before final board action is taken on an agenda topic. While speakers generally have 5 minutes to address the board, the presiding officer may establish an overall time limit for public comment and adjust the time allotted to each speaker when necessary to accommodate a large number of speakers. However, no speaker shall be given less than 1 minute. All of this is in compliance with HB 2840. Each speaker tonight will have 5 minutes. Each speaker must address the board from the provided podium unless accommodations have been requested and approved. Speakers are to present their remarks to the board and not to the audience. Speakers having complaints against individual district employees may only address the board after filing a complaint form and in the manner provided for in Board Policy DGBA Employee Complaints, FNG Student and Parent Complaints, GF Public Complaints. The presiding officer or designee shall determine whether a speaker has filed a complaint according to policy. Any speakers who complain of individual district employees during public participation or public comment may be directed by the presiding officer to refrain from naming the employee and will refer the speaker to the appropriate complaint policy. School board meetings are meetings held in public, but are not public meetings. While the school board values hearing from members of the public, trustees will not answer questions or respond to comments from patrons. Speakers will not engage in dialogue with the trustees. Please state your name when you come forward. Our first speaker tonight is Letitia Robles.
Hello, my name is Letitia Robles, and I wanted to address the issues regarding Carter Elementary. I have spoke to the higher-ups and spoke to your area superintendent as well as other administrators there at the school and higher-up levels. My daughter has had several issues regarding this school and months of going to therapy. She is only 10 years old and a little girl now placed on depression medication because y'all do nothing about it. This is not the first time I have stood here and spoke to y'all. I don't even know how you even have jobs, first of all. I don't even know how you're even here. Because you did nothing the first time, and guess what? I'm back again. And I'm going to keep coming back until my voice is heard from my daughter. Period. End of that conversation, because it's sickening that y'all are doing nothing about it. You stand here blankly and stare at us every single time. For what? To do nothing? No, that's not what y'all are supposed to do at all. Y'all are supposed to write it down. You're supposed to follow through with it, and that's supposed to be your job, especially you, Mr. Nivens. To get back onto the subject, I have approached you about the bullying that has happened to my child on multiple occasions here at this school. Now my daughter has got to the point to where she don't even want to be on this earth. I hope you're freaking proud of yourselves, every one of y'all. My daughter has went through this school, and y'all have done nothing to raise up any type of awareness about this. Last week, another girl was talking about a school shooting over there. What did y'all do about it? Huh? Nothing has been done. Was there an email sent to the parents? No, there was not. My daughter came home in fear to go to school, and you still did nothing. You, Mr. Welch, have done nothing to do anything for these children. I don't know why you're here. I don't know why you're here, ma'am. I don't know why half of y'all are even here. I can just speak that more clearly because every single time I approach y'all, it's the same people up here that have done nothing for children, that have done nothing for the schools. I have not seen you anywhere. I have called your office multiple times to speak with you personally after I have spoke with your other area superintendent, and nothing has happened. TEA has now been involved. TEA came back. Boom, a teacher founded that has clearly done wrong to my daughter, made fun of her because of Tourette's. Y'all think that that's funny? I clearly, again, don't. I don't think making fun of a child that has Tourette's is funny. My child has tried to apply and be on your SPED program because she's struggling, clearly. Guess what? Rejected, because she didn't meet your qualifications. What is your qualifications? Did y'all not hear of OHI, which is called an other health impairment? Do y'all not know what that is either? Because she qualifies under that. She has ADHD, depression, anxiety. The list can go on now. School counselors been involved. Everybody's been involved to sit here and try to mingle, to come together. But where are the higher-ups at when this is falling down the hill? Where are the higher-up at whenever my daughter's over here struggling to even want to go to school? Now I'm at the issue to where now I'm here to tell you, You can take your funding and everything else because you know what? I don't think my kid needs to even be a part of your school district. Because at the end of the day, this is not the first child. There's been multiple children that has been here, and y'all know exactly who I'm talking about, and has been on the news. You've ripped children's legs inside school, etc. I am not going to stand here. I'm not going to tolerate it anymore. And what y'all need to actually do is start standing up as a district and doing something about it, and stop having these teachers bully these kids. Stop making fun of them. It's not cute. It's not funny. And if any one of y'all think that it's funny, my address is written down there. You can come stand outside my house. Actually, forbidden. My house is up for sale now because I don't even want to live in your district. Look it up. For sale. I'm taking my family and getting and ship out of here because y'all do nothing but just stand here and stare and then go on your back and be like, what was wrong with that parent? Well, hell, what do you mean what was wrong with the parent? You did nothing to protect these children, especially you. None of y'all will ever get my vote or anybody else's because at this point, now what I'm gonna do is start protesting. And I hope y'all lose y'all's jobs.
Our next speaker is Quenisha Freelon.
Okay, clock starts now. My name is Quenisha Freelon. I've never done this before, so forgive me if I don't understand full protocol. But I do want to say this. Has anyone ever seen what a child looks like after they've committed suicide? I have. And part of the reason that I'm here today is because of the ALC protocol and my student who has threatened to take his life. I sent several emails dating back to 10/3. There was an incident on my son's campus at Forshore High School with a fire alarm. My son was accosted by some staff members and was set in a room for an hour and was forced to write a statement against another student. That other student's family, they were forced to write it as well. We both, sets of families, we went together to Forshore High School to say, hey, look, there's a problem. There's multiple APs involved. They're asking students in a very bullying manner to write statements, all because of a fire alarm. They said the students may have had a vape. They didn't find a vape. They said the students were in the restroom. The videotape from their school showed that they weren't even in the restroom at the time. Both our kids were told if they do not write a statement, they are immediately placed in ALC regardless if there's proof or not. So what I started doing, Dr. Nevins, I emailed you, I emailed your entire regional district, I included every email. I had to pay for a parent advocate today just to have my voice being heard. I've missed 7 days of work. I have special needs children in your district, and nobody can tell me those 3 minutes and 41 seconds that they lied about, what are they gonna do to fix my child who is suicidal, a straight A kid who now has zeros? He lost his high school recruitment. He's supposed to graduate on time. And all it took was 3 minutes and 41 seconds for somebody to look at a tape to see these kids. 2 African-American boys didn't do anything wrong that are willing to die because they don't want to go back to school. Now, I don't know what that other woman's situation is, but I'm telling you, if you don't do something soon, my son and many others like him, unless you want to see photos of what kids look like when they commit suicide, like I said, I've already been down that road. I don't want to go through that again. It's only been 3 years since the last time I saw a child's body that committed suicide. So I'm begging you to please check into your policies. Please look at the tape, Dr. Nivens. Please answer the emails. I'm already paying as much as I can to get my son some help. I don't know what it's gonna take. I'm not here to yell and scream at y'all. I know you don't see day to day. I understand that, but there is a problem. And if these kids continue to resorting to suicide, how many more bodies and misunderstandings will you guys go to sleep at night on the conscience that all it took was a 3-minute and a 41-second tape that proved 100% my student did nothing wrong? I will commend, though, after paying for a lawyer and a parent advocate. I got a call right before this meeting saying that everything was going to be dropped. Don't worry about it, Ms. Freelon, it's all okay. Those 3 minutes and 41 seconds are not okay. You robbed my son of a 4.0 GPA. He's failing. He's devastated. We are a military family. I have special needs students. I support my district as a taxpayer. So please, I urge you, check the tapes. Watch your protocols. Because that could mean a student might die based off of what they think they might not be heard about. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we will take action on the consent agenda. Are there any items the board would like to pull? None? All right, may I have a motion to approve the current consent agenda? All right, Ms. Danziger makes a motion. May I have a second? All right, Secretary Welch makes the second. Any discussion? One of the things for me that I'll make a note about is that we're going to, in this consent agenda, is we're talking about the Kickstart Kids, and we'll be voting on to bring that back up and approving that tonight with this vote. I want to say thank you to all the students and parents that came and advocated for their children. And so the fact that these students showed up themselves and advocated for themselves. And one of the notes I want to make was that many of the parents said that our students didn't fit in when the traditional athletics route. And so, but each parent that spoke about that said, but this has allowed my student to be more connected to the school. And so as a district, we want to find ways and spaces and opportunities like this that will allow these students that maybe don't fit in this other route, another point of connection. Because Dr. Nivens talks about when a student is connected to their school, they're more higher performing, and their chances of getting out of high school with success and going on to that next level increases with each connection point that we have. So again, thank you to Kickstart for coming up and advocating for our students, and thank you for the parents and the students that advocated for it. And they even came to the DSIC meeting that our teachers and our admin get to lead, and it was voted unanimously through the DSIC that we should, as a board, approve this. So any other comments, discussion? All right. I will now call for the vote. All in favor of approving the current consent agenda, say aye. Aye. None opposed. The motion carries. We will now have reports and presentations on future action items. Dr. Nivens?
All right, Mr. President, we have our CFO, Ms. Jill Lovick, coming up to talk about our fiscal year planning.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Dr. Nivens. I'm up this evening to speak on a future action item and for us to discuss the notification to TEA of the change in the fiscal year. As you're aware, back in June, we asked for approval to change the fiscal year and notify the TEA that we would begin having a July to June fiscal year for the 25-26 school year. At this time, we are feeling like we need to postpone or delay that change 1 year because of some analysis that we've done. So that means our revised timeline would be that the short year or the 10-month fiscal year would be September 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. And then the first full year on the new fiscal year would be the 2026-27 fiscal year. So this is a little summary of what we have accomplished so far. Although I've only named financial services, human resources, and technology in the bullet there, actually the whole administrative team has been involved in some research and evaluating when we should move to this fiscal year. So the main or the most significant items that we identified really have to do with technical and accounting impacts. And it's really related to software conversions and configurations. We've determined there's actually 4 of them, 2 of them relating to Munis, our finance system, 1 relating to PEMS reporting, and then the other relating to our timekeeping system. But the most time-consuming one, and the one that has brought about this change really in our timing, has to do with changing of the fiscal year within Munis, which is our finance system. It's going to require Tyler Technologies to support us, and they've told us that due to the complexity involved, you really have to start 4 to 6 months prior to the short year, not prior to the fiscal year. Some written information that they had on their website indicated to us originally that we would be able to start the transition 4 to 6 months before we switched fiscal years, but actually they recommend it before the short year because of the changes within the system. They expect that we should experience all of those changes for a full fiscal year before we make the change, because once we've tweaked the configurations and all of that stuff, you can't go back. And once the short year starts, you can't reverse that. So in a nutshell, that's really why we've delayed it. So we will be asking you to approve a new form to submit to the TEA just to delay it a year. And that's really all I have for this report, so I can answer any questions you might have.
A couple things, trustees, and so what we found, the reason why I was pushing for this was because I found that we have several employees who are missing paychecks while we're on the September 1 fiscal year. And so we do have a class of employees who may have to wait 6 weeks before they get their first check because of that. And of course, our July 1 employees don't see their increase until September 15th, which is about 2.5 months. And then our teachers will have to wait like a month and a half. And so what I've asked Ms. Ludwig and her team to do is figure out a way to rectify that while we're still planning to move our fiscal year forward. But, how can we make sure that we don't hire staff and have to wait a full 6 weeks before they see their first check? And so we'll come back with a plan on how we're going to do that. Sometime in the spring, we'll start talking about the budget. And we'll probably ask for some permissions to be able to do that early. So when we hire staff, we'll be able to pay them appropriately and timely.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions or discussions for Ms. Love? All right, thank you.
Oh, okay. The CAD item, right? Okay.
All right, at this time, we will take action on the action items.
So Ms. Ludwig, you want to, I know we got a phone call today from the CAD. And so if you want to update the board on that, then they give a recommendation, then we'll take action.
Okay, I did. In your packet, you had the process and why the CAD has the 5 positions up for election and what the process is. But this afternoon, I did hear from the chief appraiser that all 5 of the candidates that they were wanting to have on the board have all been nominated by one of the other taxing entities. So you can move forward with making nominations, or you don't necessarily have to. But that's up to your pleasure.
So we won't have to vote on this tonight. They're already they're in place and all that.
They're nominated.
They're nominated.
So what the CAD does then is looks at all the nominations, and then the top 5 end up on the ballot. And then later in the year, either November or December, you'll be asked to cast your votes for the candidates that you choose. You can actually commit all of our votes to one candidate, 3 candidates, all 5 candidates. You can, that's at your pleasure as well. But the vote will come in a couple months.
Okay. So trustees,
So what is it that we want the board to do tonight?
If you would like to nominate the 5, which you have in your packet, you can nominate those 5 with the resolution that's in the packet.
But we don't have to
You
because
don't
they're already
have-
nominated.
You don't have to because the CAD already has their
Okay.
names. So it's up to you.
Or unless we wanted to add a 6th person.
If we wanted
Correct.
to add
If you
someone.
wanted to add someone else.
Yeah. Does anybody have anybody to add? So then we can just leave it up to the board, and if we have a motion for the Board of Trustees to nominate the following 5 candidates for representation on the voting ballot for the Board of Directors, right?
Right?
Yeah, okay. So do we have a motion from the Board of Trustees to nominate the following 5 candidates for representation on the voting ballot for the Board of Directors of the Fort Bend Central Appraisal District? And I apologize, I will mispronounce the name. Number 1, Jim Kij.
Key.
Key, I apologize. Number 2, David James. Number 3, Paul Stamatis. Number 4, Pam Gaskin. And number 5, Mike Roselle. I don't. All right, Secretary Welch makes the motion. Do we have a second? All right, Trustee Danziger makes a second. Is there any discussion?
Ms. Ludwig, for the sake of the public, it's been several years since I've tackled this in my head and remember these discussions. Were there only 5 folks that filed for this position with the CAD? Is that how we got to these 5 names, or can you explain that a little bit?
Yes, there are 5 right now, and the only difference is David James is not one of the 5s. Jim Rice is actually on the board right now, and he's elected not to run again, and so, because of other priorities and commitments. And so David James has been nominated, and the appraisal district staff are comfortable with that person. So that's really the easy or simple answer of how that came about.
And I just wanted to let the public know, as far as my understanding is of the CAD, and I considered running for this a couple years ago, that particular board does not do the appraisals of homes in the district.
Right.
So, I'm sorry, in the county. So it's not as though these folks are going out to evaluate people's homes and we're going to get somebody who's, on the high end or low end. These folks, as I understand, govern the chief appraiser,
Yes,
the physical building and contracts for that building, and I guess oversee the staff of that building. That's my understanding of what this board does.
that's correct. There's an appraisal staff, and then, of course, you've got the appraisal review board and all the other processes that go into evaluating or valuing property. So yes, you're right. It's not this board that values property.
Yes, sir.
Does anyone know these individuals? I mean, are we endorsing them? Is that what we're doing?
Well, we're nominating them. We're from,
I do know one of them, but.
I know a couple of them. We've nominated Jim Key before.
Oh, that's right.
Mike Roselle, is it?
Mike
Mike Roselle
Yes.
lives
Mike
in
Ro-
Greatwood area. That's all I got.
all right, so we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Okay. We'll call for the vote. We'll do aye, oppose, and then we will also have the option to abstain. So all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. We will now have reports and presentations on the information items.
All right, trustees, we have Dr. John Maxwell coming to the microphone, and Dr. Maxwell is our Executive Director of Enrollment Management. And so he is now the person that will get all the phone calls and the mean emails when we have to rezone and talk about demographics. And so, Dr. Maxwell.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Board of Trustees, Dr. Nivens. Tonight, we actually have Mr. Bob Templeton with us. He is from Zonda Education, and he'll be kind of going over, not kind of, but he will be going over the demographics report for Lamar CISD based on the Q2 data. He will also include some housing updates that are going on within our district limits, as well as some enrollment projections. So I'm going to get out of the way and give you the person who knows all about the enrollment and demographics and bring up Mr. Templeton.
Good evening, Board President, members of the board, Dr. Nivens. It is my pleasure to be with you tonight. No surprise, you're still the fastest growing school district of all the school districts in Texas. You're building more houses than any other school district in Texas. We track that data for every major region in the state of Texas, so we've got a great database to track that, but you're still breaking records for new home construction. I'll touch on just big picture economic trends. These are the unemployment rates. You can see the unemployment rate as of June 24 was almost at 5%, a little below 5%. We've seen it kind of bounce up across the state. The state's rate also picked up just a little bit. The economy is facing some headwinds of continued higher inflation. So inflationary pressures are still strong. The cost of housing is still strong. But in the Houston market, we're seeing very strong new home construction. In fact, the Houston market is the second most active market in the country, building the second most homes of any major region, following DFW in the #1 spot in Texas. When we look at those trends, this is the annualized single-family start rate for the greater Houston area. That turquoise line is the annualized closing rate. You can see how that start rate has picked back up, and it's kind of headed toward that 40,000 homes per year mark. It has leveled off at about 38,000. You likely know that the Fed dropped the interest rate a couple of weeks ago, 50 basis points. Our chief economist with Zonda believes it's possible we could see another small drop. If not in December, in the first quarter of 2025, that will hopefully make it be very helpful for the younger buyers. Now, this has been very odd when we look at the total housing market. This interest rate affordability challenge has created some challenges in the existing home sale market. What we're seeing is a majority of these homeowners took advantage of the really low interest rates a couple of years ago, so many of the current homeowners are staying put. So we're not seeing as much turnover in older existing homes because they got that low interest rate and they don't want to buy that other home and then get into a higher interest rate. So it's causing more shoppers to go into new homes. The new home market has actually seen an increase in share of the total housing picture because the new home builders are very creative with marketing. They're also using buy downs on the interest rates. They're offering some discounts, some incentives to lure in those buyers. And the population growth is so strong that we're seeing the new home market really faring fairly well during these higher interest rate periods. We're also not seeing it really have an impact on the average price or the median price. So far, prices are still holding pretty well. Now, in the multifamily picture, this is looking at the data across the greater Houston region. The blue bar represents the occupancy rates, and you can see we're seeing very low occupancy rates for multifamily. They're down below 88%, and it's been that way for the last several years, and it looks like this in just about every market in Texas. So it's the tremendous amount of multifamily construction that is causing those occupancy rates to stay in that below 88% range. And I don't see that changing anytime soon because we still have a tremendous amount of multifamily under construction as well. Now, this is the ranking report based on single-family closings for the greater Houston area, and you're in the #1 spot. You're far and away in the #1 spot. Conroe's in the 2nd spot. The annual closing for Lamar is 4,305. Look at the start rate. The start rate's back up over 5,000. That's about what it was back in 2021, 2020 when the housing market surged, when we first came out of the pandemic. So we've kind of returned back to those really strong rates. The inventory represents homes under construction. It represents some finished vacant homes. The VDL stands for vacant developed lots. Those are lots that are on the ground, ready for builders to build. The futures are concept plans. They are future phases of current developments. They're also stuff that we're just now starting to get, a picture on, but you're getting new development information almost on a weekly basis. If not for sure monthly, new projects are starting into that planning pipeline. We track it every quarter. You can see in the second quarter 2024, we started 1,447 single-family homes. We closed about 1,288. Again, you can see that start rate's headed up over 5,000. We'll likely see that continue on into 2025. Now, when we break down that single-family data by your elementary attendance zones, you have 11 elementary zones that are building more than 200 homes per year. I don't have another client that has as much activity spread across so many elementary zones. Your most active is the Tamaron zone, over 660 annual starts. Second most active is Morgan with 578, Huggins with 485, tremendous growth across multiple zones. This is another way to look at the data. This is a map of your elementary attendance zones. Those green shaded areas are the active subdivisions where we're seeing single-family construction. We have 90 actively building subdivisions, 32 future subdivisions that are in various stages of planning, groundwork underway on 3,250 lots across 15 subdivisions. We actually saw about 1,479 lots were delivered in the second quarter. And where you have a red outline, those are the areas where new development is taking place. I want to point out the this Austin Point down here. It is now active. They have started the dirt work on Austin Point. Our satellite imagery technology alerted us to this. It actually started a couple of months ago. So Austin Point in the Velasquez Elementary Zone, come next summer, they'll likely be seeing new home construction start in that area. These are massive, large master plan communities. Now, again, we're getting new information on a regular basis. This is a project that was sent to us from the Business Journal, recently purchased about 289 acres on the corner of Wernicke and Strasnicki Road. It's right on the boundary line. So we'll need to see the plat. So once we get the plat, we'll be able to determine if it's in the district or how much of it is in the district. But it does represent about 1,000 homes, but it's right on the boundary line of Lamar and Needville ISD. Also getting word from the city of Rosenberg, they're seeing some new development plans southeast of the Brookwater development in the very early stages. The nice thing is when Dr. Maxwell gets this, we immediately put it into our system, and he has access to see what we're putting into the system. So we're in sync with what he's learning and what we're learning as well through his mapping software that we use together. Some of the highlights, I'll go through these rather quickly. Tamaron West is your most active master plan community. It's about 3,600 total lots, 202 homes under construction, about 649 homes occupied as of the second quarter. There's the satellite imagery from July. You can see massive amounts of development activity taking place in Tamaron West. Brookwater, it's a new future development that is active. You can see from the satellite imagery, the streets are in for a large section, about 350 vacant developed lots on the ground. They had 4 homes under construction when we did the research in the second quarter. It'll really ramp up in the spring when we get to that spring rush of new construction. Evergreen, another future, that's 744 total lots, 43 vacant developed lots are available, 45 homes under construction, so they're off to a fast start in Evergreen. Candela South, 348 lots. The lot delivery will begin later this year. You can see the streets are in. They'll likely start some model homes pretty soon. Again, the big surge here will start in the spring. A couple of futures that popped up on the radar, Rye Hill. It is 1,723 total lots, 2,500 total homes on about 980 acres developed by the Pulte Group. And then next door there, we've got Del Webb Sugarland at Rye Hill, 777 future lots. It is age restricted, no impact of kids in the Del Webb section. The Preserve at Rosenberg It's 551 total lots. The groundwork is underway. Cloudy image on that satellite imagery there, but definitely you can see the dirt work has started at the preserve at Rosenberg. That's just some of the highlights on the single family. On the multifamily, we broke the district up into several pictures. In this particular section, we've got 830 multifamily units under construction, 600 multifamily units that are in the planning stages. The purple shaded areas are the multifamily under construction, and the turquoise shaded are in the planning stages. In this section, we've got about 1,000 multifamily units under construction with about 300 units that are in the planning sections in this area of the district. Again, here in the central part of the district, we have 450 multifamily units under construction and more than 2,200 multifamily units that are in various stages of planning. Some of the highlights here, the Camber Ridge at Cross Creek Ranch, 312 units that are under construction. Leasing should begin or could begin in the first quarter of 2025. Next, we've got this multifamily project that is, the text box didn't come through on that. I'll make sure the text box shows up on this multifamily section. Let's see. This is the canvas on Founders Hill. It's a single-family for rent community, 153 single-family rental units under construction. The leasing could begin in the first quarter of 2025. This type of multifamily we're seeing across just about all of our clients, so it is an emerging, growing type of multifamily. We do see it doesn't yield quite as high as your traditional single-family, but it does yield higher than traditional apartments. So it's kind of in the middle there. They can yield between 0.3, around 0.3 to 0.4 is what the yield is on the single family for rent developments. Now we've done newcomer leavers. Newcomers are new student IDs, and it's only looking at the first grade and 12th grade classes compared to last year's kindergarten 12th grade classes. So it's not quite apples to apples when we look at it and compare it towards the enrollment growth, but it is a way to see how many new IDs that you have in 1st through 12th grades. You had 5,675, which those are brand new students to the school district. You had 4,329 that left the district. Those most likely physically moved out, and some of those could be transferring to other districts or transferring to either private or homeschool. So a little bit of an increase in the transfer out, a significant increase in the new to the district. Here's the look at the forecast by grade level. So this year's enrollment grew 2,055 students. Your enrollment a couple of weeks ago was 46,525. That number is literally changing every day. It's growing as you have new families moving in all year long. Elementary numbers tend to grow all year long. High school numbers tend to peak at mid-year. So we don't see as much high school growth in the spring semester. Over the next 5 years, we've got your enrollment reaching 56,781. You're basically continuing to grow almost 2,000 kids a year for the foreseeable future. Now, you have several campuses opening next year. So we have that in this round of projections, but I'm calling it kind of draft because it's early in the school year. There's still some decisions that will be made around transferring and grandfathering, and all those factors will come into play that we will adjust the projections once those are firmed up. But here's a look at your elementary numbers for the next 5 years based on the new campus openings. The orange is when the enrollment is 100 to 105% of capacity. The yellow is at 95% capacity, and the red is when the enrollment exceeds 105% of capacity. You'll notice we've got several elementary schools that are in that red zone. It's Adolphus, Beasley, Huggins, Lindsay, that will be exceeding the 105% capacity this next year. I'll let you soak that in before I go to the next group of elementary students. Here's the second page of elementary schools, and here we've got McNeil and Tamaron that are exceeding that 105%. You've got Morgan that is in that 100 to less than 105%. At your middle schools, it's Roberts that is exceeding the capacity. At your junior highs, it's Lehman that exceeds capacity in 2027. At the high school level, we've got 3 high schools that are exceeding capacity. That is Fulshire, George Ranch, and Randall. I'll do key takeaways and be ready to answer some questions. The housing starts in the district are up significantly from the previous year, up about 40% from the same period in 2023. Groundwork is underway on more than 3,250 lots. We've got 2,300 multifamily units under construction across the district. We expect Lamar CISD's forecast to enrollment to reach about 56,700 students in 5 years and more than 66,100 students in 10 years. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Trustees, any questions?
One, and you did touch on it a little bit. Is this building subdivisions directly to single-family leasing? I know it's not new, but it's new kind of to our area.
It's a relatively new concept that we noticed about 4 years ago. So
Okay.
4 years ago, we saw the first 1 or 2 of these popping up, and now I know we're tracking these types of developments in just about every one of our suburban clients. What's interesting is some of these are production builders that are doing them too. It's D.R. Horton's doing some of these, and so it's
And it's whole subdivisions.
full subdivisions, and it's not going to be for sale. They're going to keep it as a rental community.
Do we find that these students stay, or do they move around, or I guess it depends on
We'll
their
know-
leasing contract?
We'll know, as we track it each year, we'll be able to see, but I suspect there will be mobility there. They're not going to stay. That's the reason why they make that choice.
Correct, and I can
is
understand why young families might want to do that, so they.
It's the flexibility.
The flexibility, but it just puts more pressure on the school district.
And the rents are just as high as what a mortgage would be. So they're paying $2,200, $2,300 rent for some of these single-family for rent homes.
Could you go back one slide, I think, to the high school projections? So when it says capacity, isn't George Ranch 2,500 students now? Are some of these a little bit higher?
It is 25, so that, it's not built in on here.
Okay.
I apologize. I built it into my spreadsheet, but I didn't build it into the software, so
That's
I'll
okay.
get that changed
Okay.
on the software.
Okay.
Yeah, Fulshire is 3,000.
I mean, it gets in
it's
trouble
close.
eventually.
Isn't it more than
But by
3,000?
that, no, it's 3,000.
Full sure.
Yes, I've changed it in my spreadsheet, but I didn't change it in the software, so I've got
But then we
Some
don't fill
corrections.
in that high school number 8 will help
Right.
with that, so that should come down, correct?
But when does that open?
Here we go.
So as of right now, high school 8 is scheduled for 2027.
And we built that one for 3,000?
I believe so. Greg, is that? Ask my counterpart who knows more about the building aspect.
Is it 3,000 or 3,000?
Or 2,500.
Yes, ma'am. Currently, what we have designed it for was 3,075 as our prototype. Our plan is to build the core building at 2,575 with an alternate for the 500 seats, and if it comes within budget, to build it at the 3,075 capacity, using the alternate method to be able to build that.
Is that what we did with Tomas? Or
Tomas, we planned on building it 2,075, and then we added the 500 seats to it, so it opens at 2,575
Okay.
as well.
Okay.
we started adding 500 to all of them, we were able to add to that.
So those bonds were, when we had the bonds, it was for that size of school, which is why we can't build it bigger.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. We originally built high school 8 for 2,575. That's why we're using the alternate to add the 500 seat addition. Hopefully we get economy of scale to be, instead of adding it later, they already have everything going. So usually we get a better value. So if we can squeeze it within the budget to go ahead and open it up at the larger capacity.
We know that we're gonna have to squeeze it in the budget, and so, you know, all that was done, that bond was passed before we had the tier system for our master plan principles. So we're not gonna have to, we gotta fit it in the budget. But high school number 8 and number 9 will provide some relief. But the data we're looking at, it may not provide as much relief as we're expecting because so many folks are coming quickly. And then we also have, you know, seniors have a choice, and then we also have the UIL exemption status. And so that'll also impact a couple hundred kids as well, staying at their campuses.
Any other discussions, questions? And for the community's sake, thank you so much, sir. And for the community's sake, one of Dr. Maxwell's roles that he gets to walk in daily is our government relations. So having conversations with city officials and county officials, just we're trying to stay ahead of this, even though it feels like we're playing catch up like crazy. So one of the things that we're going to be starting, you know, we mentioned committee reports earlier. One of the things we're going to be adding is a hypergrowth oversight committee. And so this will be an opportunity for us as trustees to lean in more and ask those questions and invite the city leaders and the city council members and county commissioners and city commissioners to the table and say, okay, sit down and have a meeting with our hypergrowth oversight committee so that we can walk alongside this and not feel like we're playing catch up, but try to get ahead of the game. And through bond savings and all that, Mr. Buchanan and his team have been able to start developing a land bank. And so part of this hypergrowth oversight committee will look at the numbers, the data that we are getting quarterly now. A couple of trustees and myself were walking through the convention this past week and a half, and another demographer was there and asked, well, is the more frequent updates helping y'all? And we're like, yes, absolutely. The more frequent updates are helping us because we're growing so fast. And so we were able to tell her, like, yes, that the quarterly updates that we are getting, because our numbers are changing so rapidly, that we're able to say, okay, now there's a new neighborhood, there's a new all that. So I also got invited to go sit at a legislative dinner, and there was representatives there from Rep. Lulani's office. State Rep. Kitzman was there. There was a representative from Senator Colcourt's office and a representative from Senator Huffman's office. And so we were at this dinner, and there was Fort Bend ISD and Stafford MSD was there as well. And so we're able to sit around this table with these state reps and their representatives, and we're able to talk about, like, okay, we need help from the state in attacking the situation, and how do we get ahead of it and all that stuff. So it was really great to do that. And so this new committee that we're going to be creating as trustees will be made up of 2 or 3 trustees that are sitting up here. Will be able to speak into that kind of thing. And so due to Open Meetings Act and all that stuff, we can't really discuss it until this meeting when we're all in a called meeting. So trustees will have the opportunity to volunteer to sit on this committee to help get in front of it and all that. So just the fact that we have 11 neighborhoods with 200+ homes being built right now is, if we had the foresight back then to say, okay, we need a hypergrowth oversight committee 12 years ago, that would have helped out a lot. So, yes, ma'am.
Just to piggyback on, and then I have another question. But yes, those yearly reports, they always came to us, and then we walked away with, well, we need those schools yesterday. Well, that doesn't help us. We need to know more than just yesterday where those schools need to go. And not that I think it makes a difference, but do we have any other charter schools on horizon? Because we were told about the one on 359 several years ago. So do you see anything coming down the pike that we need to be aware of?
Charter schools are a nemesis to what we do because the public locations of the future, TEA does not divulge the addresses. They only divulge typically the county that the charter will be located in. And then we are using our resources to track through city minutes and city communications to find the locations. I don't have any others showing up in your district this next year, but the reality is there will eventually be charters that will come. We're hopeful that in this legislative session, the Fast Growth Coalition is promoting legislation to help track charters. So I'm hopeful that we can get some legislative passed there to make it where if a charter school owns property in a school district, they have to disclose that to the school district. Right now, there could be charter land that's either disguised as an LLC or some other investment group that it's hard to spot if they own that land or not. So, but yes, charters are expanding, and there will eventually be some additional charters in your school district.
And one thing for the community's sake, again, is that when a charter goes to build a campus, our tax dollars as taxpayers still pays to build those campuses. They don't have to request a bond, request approval from a bond because they are not a taxing agency like the school district is. So for us to build a building, to build all these additional schools, we have to get voter approval to use those tax dollars. Our charter school does not have to get voter approval to build those buildings. So that's one of the things we talked about with this legislative dinner is the moderator of that dinner talked to State Rep Kitzman and Rep Lalani's office, and we were able to stress that yes, I mean, every parent and every family has the right to choose where they send their kids, but who's going to pay for the buildings? Like, I'm still paying for the building, the charter schools to be built, but they don't have to get the voter approval to do that. So just as the educational piece, we still have to build schools as a district to make up for all these families, but we have to have that voter approval where another agency gets to use the same tax dollars and they don't have to have the voter approval. So, yes, sir.
I just want to make a point of clarification of what he's saying. It comes from, the TEA approves, the State Board of Education approves the charters, as I understand it. And that money comes from the state of Texas, and we are all taxpayers in the state of Texas.
Correct.
As property owners, and every time we buy different things at the store. But those charter schools are not built, those buildings are not built with Lamar CISD money out of our particular budget. So it's not as though we're passing bonds to build our buildings, and then they get to come in and scoop some of that up. So just a point of clarification there.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So with this hypergrowth, that'll be starting, trustees will be talking about that and all that. So trustees, anything else regarding the demographics report and student enrollment? All right, Dr. Nevins.
All right, Board, we had our special education audit update a few months ago, and then it was a rather lengthy report, and so what I promised was we would have Ms. Mathis come back and answer any questions after the board had a chance to review that. And so instead of her going through the entire report again, because it's rather lengthy, I want to know whether any specific questions that the board had that you needed her to dive deeper into as far as information goes.
I have a question. It's not super specific, but, within the report, there were things that we did well and things that we can improve on. So do we have an action plan to follow through on the list of items that we need to improve on or change how we do those things? Or are y'all taking the suggestions? What are y'all doing with that?
Yes, we have created an action plan based on 15 of the 17 recommendations. And in the report, as you read, some of it has to do with shortages, teacher shortages, so some things we can't do immediately, but we do have an action plan to address all of the areas.
Is this something that we as a board can read? Okay.
Sure, yeah, that is. I can send it to you.
Well, I had a list of several different comments and questions for you, but it sounds like you just answered them all with one big, broad stroke. So I don't really know what to dive into here. I guess I'll look for your your all's action plan.
Okay,
I'll send it to you this week.
all right, thank you. Need that.
Trustees, are there any items on the future consent agenda that trustees would like to pull for discussion at the November board meeting? All right. It is 7:34 PM. We are adjourning to closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code Sections 551.071, 551.072, 551.074, and 551.082, the Open Meetings Act, to discuss personnel, land acquisition, or consultation with our attorney.
Board of Trustees are returning from closed session. Board of Trustees are returning from closed session.
We are now back in open session. It is 8:34 PM. We have a quorum. Are there any motions to be made?
Yes, Mr. President. I move that the Board of Trustees approve the Lamar CISD 403B plan, written consent agreement as discussed in closed session.
All right, we have a motion by trustee Danziger. Do we have a second? All right, trustee Bronzel makes a second. I will now call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Are there any other motions?
Yes, Mr. President, I move that the Board of Trustees approve the employment of personnel as discussed in closed session.
All right, we have a motion by trustee Bronzel. Do we have a second? All right, Secretary Welch makes a second. I will now call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. The meeting is adjourned at 8:35 PM.